Hi, everybody. I'm Bryan Mudd, a fan of South Plains politics. Here's your talking points for this week. State Democrats trying a convention without the convention hall, but can an online event really rally their troops to vote in November? And business owners face risk every day, but many are asking why coronavirus relief isn't including relief from legal liability.
From the studios of KAMC Television in Lubbock, your local election headquarters. This is Talking Points with Bryan Mudd.
And thanks for joining us, everybody. Also this week, the insulation. How many times have you heard from people, why do you want to live in Lubbock? Nothing to do, it's in the middle of nowhere, blah, blah, blah. But we know that the miles of farmland between us and Dallas, say, also provides insulation from a lot of big city problems, including the looters and the police instigators that we've seen in other places since the terrible death of George Floyd. It's good people who are the change makers there and in our little oasis. Here's a prime example. Folks of all races joined by Police Chief Floyd Mitchell and other city and county leaders in a silent march this week condemning the actions of those involved in Mr. Floyd's death. The walk began at Lubbock Police Headquarters, ended at Citizens Tower, where school board member Bill Stubblefield read the names of more than 70 unarmed African Americans killed since 2012. That doesn't mean our insulation is foolproof. 25-year-old Emmanuel Quinones here showed up at a Lubbock protest with a rifle and is now being charged by federal prosecutors with making interstate threats. The Justice Department says Quinones admitted to making social media threats to, quote, off racist and MAGA people, and told authorities he planned to shoot supporters of the president at that rally. And with everything going on, some people were left wondering about the officers involved in this arrest at the intersection of the West Loop and 50th Street. You see, one of the officers hit the suspect several times. There was an immediate investigation here, and Chief Floyd Mitchell saying that after looking at the body camera video, he stands by how this was handled. 36-year-old David McDaniels charged with assault on a public servant and resisting arrest. Then there's the Lubbock police officer put on leave after he felt the need to post things on social media about local protesters. The 15-year police veteran described the peaceful protesters as, quote, trash and East Side rabble. Chief Mitchell says he was disappointed, said those words aren't representative of his department and that they were hurtful at a time when many African Americans believe their concerns are not being heard.
To refer to our people who live on the east side of Lubbock or anywhere in the city of Lubbock as trash or rabbles, to be disparaging in any way is not appropriate. It's not how we treat people, it's not how we train, and I want everyone to understand that I will not idly stand by and allow that to happen.
Chief Mitchell says his office will continue to provide protection for protesters. Well, I'm sure you saw Reggie Dow a lot this week with Chief Mitchell from 100 Black Men of West Texas, and Reggie's been good enough to join us here once again. Good to see you, man.
Good
it's been
to see
a while.
You, Brian. Yes.
What's your thoughts on the last, I don't know, 10 days or so here and around the country? We've seen mass protests before, but does this feel different to you? Because it kind of does to me.
It does. You know, a lot of me and my friends have conversations about this a lot. And it really does feel different from when the last, and it sucks to even say that, when the last incident has happened. It seemed like this George Floyd incident just kind of lit the match, you know, just kind of woke everybody up because the brutality of it, you know, and the cruelty of it. And it was live, you know.
And it was almost the point we've been waiting for, a tipping point of people who were moved enough to care. And that's what it feels like anyway.
Yes.
I'll never understand these sorts of things, but I've had people talk to me about the fact that there's just nothing like leaving your house and wondering if you're going to be harassed today.
Correct.
Or worse. Has it happened to you? Does it happen here? What should we be concerned about? Yeah,
you know, I hope we have time. I'm just tell you a brief story. And a couple of days ago, I had a friend of mine whose car stopped right up here up the street. It stopped at the store. And so I went over, got him a boost, but it ended up stopping again. And so we had to pull into a neighborhood. Okay, we pulled into a neighborhood waiting on the tow truck. But at that same time, while we was there, I'm thinking to myself, what if these folks come out here and think we're doing something negative? What if they think we're up to no good? We're really just actually waiting on the tow truck to come. What if a police officer come and think that, hey, they're trying to rob a house? You know, those are the type of thoughts. And this is my neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that I live in. You know, I shouldn't have those thoughts.
Right, right.
You know, but I do at times.
Tell me about the silent walk on Monday.
Yes.
And that seemed a lot more powerful than we could put into video here, and doing that with Chief Mitchell and everyone else. What did that mean for you and the group there?
That meant a lot. It meant, one, it meant a lot for Chief Mitchell and the command staff, and also the mayor and the city council and other dignitaries to show up. Because it was one of those events to where it was really a spirit of the moment type of deal. Pastor Bill Stubblefield, who's also on the LISD board, gave me a call. I was like, hey man, this is a great idea. I think we should move forward with it. And he asked me, and I asked him, we're gonna do this when we gonna do this? He said, today. I say, today? He's like, yeah, we can get it done today. Yeah. So Chief Mitchell called, and the ball just went to moving, and people found out about it. But I think we made a powerful statement by just being present. You know, just by being there, because we didn't have to say any words. I think just being there made a difference in what happened, what was going on in the world today.
People look at what's going on in the world and watch the news and everything else that's on it, and there are a lot of people on social media who like to point to the looters and the people who are trying to pick fights with police in other parts of the country, and miss the fact that those really aren't the protesters.
Correct.
What kind of damage does that do to people who would like to protest these kind of things?
It does big damage, because perception is reality. Yeah. You know, they see that. They see these cars getting turned over. They see people burning down stores and et cetera, and they assume that it's these silent, not necessarily silent protesters, but boisterous protesters, which they have the right to do. They're not damaging anything, but all it takes is a select few. You know, select few to cause those issues, and it makes everybody else look bad. You know, and so that's where people have to differentiate the two. You know, because you have some folks out there that's really just want to get out there for up to no good. You know, but a majority of the folks are out there just protesting what they feel is right.
There's mentoring, I know, that goes on with 100 Black Men. And are there teaching moments that come out of what happened to Mr. Floyd and everything that's happened since then that you can pass on to folks?
Yes, most definitely. Out of every tragedy, you always find a teaching moment, unfortunately. You always find a teaching moment. So this is a moment for us to, one, have our young people be more aware of their surroundings. We shouldn't have to act differently when we are approached by a police officer, but we have to act differently in most cases when we in touch with the police officer. So we have to let the young people know the steps to take. Right. You know, have your hands on the steering wheel. Don't reach for your license. Wait until he comes until he comes to the car and ask you to. And if you feel uncomfortable, ask him to get the license, or give a verbal, hey, I'm just reaching for my license. Or if you have a concealed handguns license, make sure you give him that along with your license. I
hate that we have to even have these kind of conversations.
I know.
You know?
I know.
Final seconds we have here real quick. There are a lot of good people out there who've been taking an active role in things and protested about what happened. What should we do, though, next week, next month, in 6 months, to keep this movement and these feelings of trying to make some change going?
Continue to be aware. Continue to have these conversations. Yeah. Continue to have these conversations with your kids. Especially the young people, let them know exactly what's going on today. They're living in the moment, maybe just don't understand the moment. You know, they're definitely living in it, and they won't understand it till 10, 15 years later. You know, and so I think just being present and just being honest and having these conversations like we always have, you know, to make people know each other. You know, let people know each other. See, I can text you, you can text me, and we can have a conversation. Right. You know, and it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with color. We get to know each other. You know, and so I think if we just have these roundtable discussions and these difficult conversations, you know, I think we can become a better country, become a better nation.
Reggie Dow, 100 Black Men in West Texas. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.